Welcome to the Empire's preseason podcast series. Today we will be talking about the Drexel Dragons basketball team and our opinion on their outlook for the season. I am Benjamin Simon.
And I'm William Derry.
After a disappointing 2016-17 season for the Drexel Dragons that was topped off by a 9-23 record, the Dragons looked to rebound in Zach Spiker's second season at the helm of Drexel. The Dragons lost seniors Rodney Williams, John Moran, Mohamed Ba, and Major Kennedy to graduation. They also found out in the offseason that native of Iceland, Kari Jonsson, will not be returning to school for his sophomore season. The outlook of the season looks good after gaining two transfers, Troy Harper and Tremaine Isabel, along with retaining superstar Kirk Lee, who had a promising freshman season. Now, Will, when we're looking at Kirk Lee, I mean, he's an undersized point guard, but a guy that's going to compete every single night. Do you think he's someone that can be a superstar again this year? Or do you think that the transfers and another year of Miles Overton is going to kind of take away from Kirk Lee, and we'll see him take less of that playmaking role?
No, I think Kirk Lee will be as good as he was last year, maybe even better. One thing we both know about Kirk Lee is that he works in the gym. He's always in the gym, no matter if it's a holiday, the summertime, during the season. He's always in the gym with his personal trainer, who he's been working with since he was a high school student. So I think Kirk Lee is going to be...
Talk about their the story on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I wrote an article for our website about Kirk Lee and his personal trainer, who he knows he looks up to him as his big brother. And the crazy thing about it is that during Thanksgiving, while everyone was eating Thanksgiving dinner and enjoying the holiday, Kirk Lee, early in the morning, went to his high school gym at St. Francis Academy with his basketball trainer, and he posted a video of him taking shots and working out while a lot of people probably were, enjoying the holiday. So I reached out to Kirk Lee. I reached out to, I first reached out to Drexel's media director to put me in contact with Kirk Lee, and then I called his trainer, and I wanted to know, where did that motivation come from? Why does he grind so hard? And they made it seem like, this is something that they've been doing, even though, people may not know about it. Kirk Lee and his trainer have been put in this work for a long time. And while, talking to Lee and his trainer, I found out that his trainer comes from Maryland sometimes to Drexel's facility to work out after practice, before practice. While Kirk Lee was in high school, he would, come to practice early and put in work. He would lift weights. And one funny thing I learned was that during Kirk Lee's freshman year at Drexel, they were doing a weightlifting drill, doing a pull-up bar challenge, and Kirk Lee ended up having the most pull-ups on the team, and Spiker was highly impressed by that. So Kirk Lee is a competitor. I don't really expect him to fall this year, get worse, or feel like he's being overshadowed by the transfers you mentioned, like Troy Harper and Tremaine Isabel or Miles Overton. I think Kirk Lee, along with those guys, is just going to make Lee's game better and give him, take pressure off of him and allow people around him to play even better.
Yeah, I think that Kirk Lee, he showed no signs of slowing down last year. Even though, by the end of the season, everyone in the CAA, almost everyone in definitely the East Coast knew who Kirk Lee was, and knew what he had, knew what he brought to the table. Finished the season with 10 straight double-digit games, 6 of the 9 wins. He had 3 or less turnovers, and that, I think, tells you a lot about what they're going to need from him this year especially. It's going to be controlling the ball, especially with he's going to have some more help now. Obviously, I lost Rodney Williams, who, that's a different story, but that we will talk about a little bit later about just how important he was to the team. Kirk Lee is going to have help now with Tremaine Isabel. Although they lost Kari, which is going to be a huge loss, and I don't think people notice just how much of a loss that will be. They'll bring in Troy Harper. He'll have a little bit more scoring, I think, this year. Austin Williams in his final year, and we saw really potential to be a superstar scorer from him. 3 or less turnovers per game and 6 of the 9 wins. And that's going to be key. Controlling the ball, I think, will be something that Kirk Lee is really going to have to do. Is less of they're obviously going to rely on him to score and play make, but I think less so than they did in years past, especially with like a born scorer like Tremaine Isabel.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Kirkley, along with Isabel and Overton, and also Troy Harper, and also having Austin Williams down there in the paint, I think it's going to, because of Rodney Williams' departure and all the impact he had last year, it should, force guys to step up and take their game to a new level.
Yeah, I think easily one of the X factors for Drexel is going to be Austin Williams. I really, really believe that. I think that, we saw really flashes of potential last year, and I don't think people noticed just how important he was to the team. And I don't think people necessarily saw just how effective he was at scoring the basketball. He shot 61% from the field, which was the highest on the team. It wasn't just layups and dunks. He created shots for himself sometimes. The little baby hook that he had, left and right hand, that was really effective. You got to get free throw percentage up, especially a big man in this league. I mean, you saw how many times Rodney Williams got to the line, almost 6 times a game. And he was one of the highest people that got to the line, one of the highest ranks in the entire City 6. So Austin Williams is going to look to do that. And then, average 7 points per game and 6.3 fouls. Average 3.5 fouls per game. That's something else that's going to be key. Just because the lack of front court depth that they have, he's got to stay in the game.
Yeah, I think that, just like we mentioned on our previous podcast when we were talking about LaSalle with Tony Washington, I think when you have a big man and you don't have as much depth around him or behind him on the bench, he has to stay in the game. If Austin Williams is, constantly getting into foul trouble and Spiker has to pull him off the court to rest them for the rest of the first half or the start of the second half, that's only going to hurt the team overall. So I think that Austin Williams has to find a way to bang down low, but also, be careful on defense, not to reach, to, keep his hands straight up and just to stay out of foul trouble. But I like the point you made about him scoring 7.1 points per game and 6.3 rebounds, because just in his sophomore year, he was only averaging a point and 2.3 rebounds. He was only playing 7.8 minutes. So last year he had a breakout season, and this year he should just be even better.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see who they bring in, to kind of spill Austin Williams, and who they're going to play beside Austin Williams. Do you have any ideas of who you think might be that kind of backup big man, or maybe even start beside Austin Williams?
For me, I think it has to be the freshman from Findlay Prep, whose his hometown is Lithuania. His home country is Lithuania. It has to be Tadas Karadinas. Tadas had an amazing game yesterday, scoring 16 points in a Puerto Rico charity event against Villanova University. And I think that is, we're talking about playing against one of the best teams in the nation in Villanova and scoring 16 points against guys like Omari Spellman and Mikal Bridges. It's just playing against a Jay Wright coach team. I think that's impressive.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that Karinius is going to be someone that's really important for the team, and I think he's someone that you might actually see starting. I mean, we saw Tyshawn Miles start with Austin Williams. Now, Austin Williams sat out against Villanova, making sure that he's 100% healthy, and you saw Tyshawn Miles get the start, but Karinius ended up playing more minutes, and you saw a guy like Alihan Demir. From Central Wyoming College. He's a transfer. He's someone that might also see minutes at 6'9", 223, and was very productive all conference at Central Wyoming, averaging 13.6 points per game, 7.3 rebounds, shooting 54% from the floor. He's someone that could definitely see some minutes too, but they're going to need one of those guys to really step up. Tyshawn Miles is someone else, but he's had opportunities, and I don't really know how much he'll bring to the table. I think Karinius is someone that could really be an interesting look for them. And you see he shot 3 of 3 from – he's a guy that can pick and pop. Made 3 threes 100% from the 3-point line against Villanova. And he also is able to bang down low and get some buckets inside. I think he could be a scoring threat that might be important. And I wonder if him and Austin Williams might surprise people in the City Six with their ability to score inside.
Yeah, I agree. I think a combination of him and Austin Williams, and then also being able to bring in Tyshawn Miles as a backup big man who can definitely rebound and hold his own on the block and possibly put in some putbacks. I think that, those three, that trio of players, should be able to, do some damage down low. But I'm excited to see how Tadas does this year. It's his freshman year. Like I mentioned before, he did go to Finley Prep, so he's not, shy of the spotlight. He played at a major prep program. So I think, if yesterday was any indicator of how the season will go for him, I think he has big things coming for us in the future.
He also played in the 2017 FIBA U20 European Championship in the A Division. Didn't play a lot, but you see he's playing against good competition. That's definitely something that's going to help the team moving forward. I'm also interested to see just how the starting lineup shapes out, because there are a lot of different combinations you go with this Drexel team. How do you think it'll work out?
Well, I think that Kirk Lee will start at the 1, Tremaine Isabel at the 2, Sammy Mojica at the 3, Austin Williams at the 4, and possibly Tadas at the 5 after what we saw yesterday. I could definitely see Miles Overton, switching in for Mojica at times or for Isabel. I think Overton will start some games, but for right now, as the season is getting ready to open up, I would go with Lee at the 1, Isabel at the 2, Mojica at the 3, Austin Williams at the 4, and Tadas at the 5.
Yeah, I don't know if Tadas Karinas is gonna play start from day one. I might have to disagree on that point. I just think that Sam Green's someone that I think they'd like to see get more minutes this year. I'd kind of see it going something like Kirk Lee, Tremaine Isabel, Sammy Mojica, and I think Miles Overton and Austin Williams, and then first guys off the bench are Sam Green, Troy Harper, and Tadas. I don't know. The only thing that I think is that last year they loved to run, and part of the reason why Rodney Williams was so effective was because he was a versatile 4 that could put the ball on the floor, and he learned how to shoot, and he was able to finish, a fantastic finisher inside, and they were able to run and get points up with him. I wonder just how important that's going to be this year too. And I think someone like Sam Green and Miles Overton would give him that, and I think Karinas would kind of slow him down in that sense at playing, especially at the beginning of the year. I also think he could be an important spark plug off the bench, kind of pairing with Troy Harper. I think that they'll need that scoring punch off the bench.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Sam Green being an X factor, being able to either start some games and other games when he's not starting, to be able to come off the bench and combine with Harper, and then combine with Tadas if he's also coming in off the bench. I definitely think that you're right about the Tadas possibly slowing him down. He is 6'10", and I know that Spiker likes to push the ball. You have Kirk Lee at point guard. There's no need in playing a slow half court offense. We have one of the fastest guards in the conference.
For sure, that's a really good point. I mean, you want the ball in transition with Kirk Lee.
Of course, you want the ball in transition with Kirk Lee. You want him, finding Mojica and Overton and Tremaine Isabel on the break, and also finding Austin Williams too. So we have someone like Kirk Lee. There's no need to, play a slow style of basketball.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I think what'll be interesting to see is how they fit in a guy like Troy Harper, who's coming off averaging 13 points per game in his second year at Campbell. Spent a year in the program as a transfer. He started over Tremaine Isabel against Villanova, which I thought was interesting, though they played about similar minutes. I don't see him starting, I think Tremaine Isabel will probably beat him out in that sense. I think he provides more of the shooting that they'll lose. That he's a very good 3-point shooter. I think he'll provide more of that, and they're going to need that, especially with Kari gone. I could see Troy coming off the bench and being an energy guy.
Yeah, I think just like I just mentioned with Sam Green, Troy Harper, who, like you said, went to Campbell and decided to transfer back to his hometown of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania last year and having to sit out last season. I think he's ready to go. He's a local product. He went to Numa Goretti, and he's played on a large stage. So I look forward to see what Troy can do. He can score the ball like he did in high school and like he did at Campbell. And I think this role for him is great because I just think sometimes when guys get so caught up in roles and if I'm going to start, if I'm going to play off the bench. So I know he started yesterday against Villanova due to some injuries and maybe Spiker's still trying to figure out which sets work the best. But ultimately, I think, maybe not the first couple of games, but by midseason conference play, Troy Harper will be the 6th or 7th guy, one of the first subs off the bench, and he should be able to provide an instant offensive impact off the bench.
Yeah, I think that might be interesting to see maybe if they do actually switch up the roles with Harper and put Isabel off the bench and bring Harper to start. Isabel could ideally do the same thing. Thing is, Troy Harper doesn't, I talked about this earlier, doesn't bring the same ability to shoot that Tremaine Isabel brings. Harper's bigger, so I wonder if he might fit better with Kirk Lee at the 2. Might be interesting to see how they mix and match that. I think, though, the X factor has to be Miles Overton. He just struggled so much last year. I mean, to put it bluntly, and it's not clear that he showed that he didn't show his best self, and it was clear that Zach Spiker really wanted to emphasize the fact in press conferences that this was not the Miles Overton that they saw every day in practice. If he shoots the ball well, that'd be really important. He almost took 10 shots a game last year and shot 28%. And if he's able to hit shots, it would create more space for Isabel Lee to operate, for Austin Williams to get buckets inside. And you look, who do you think had the highest usage rate on the team last year?
Rodney Williams?
It was Miles Overton. He had the highest usage percentage on the team last year. I think that tells you a lot about how much they value Rodney Williams. They're running plays through him. They're running plays through Miles Overton. They're trying to get him the ball, and he's taking shots confidently. And if those shots go in, it'll be so important because the stats don't lie. He was above Kirkley. He was above Rodney Williams. He was above Sammy Mojica and Kari Johnson in usage percentage.
Yeah. I think that, like you said, I think Overton was underwhelming last year. A lot of people thought that he would come in, especially being a transfer from Wake Forest and, having to sit out that 1 year. He's a local guy. He went to St. Joe's Prep. So, he had he was able to probably have his family in the stands. But, I think that he had a streaky stretch. He had a stretch where he had a few double-figure games, consecutive games, and he had a major injury. He had a season-ending injury where, he missed the rest of the season, so that didn't help out. But he did finish the year with 27 three-pointers and 35 assists. So, he's like you mentioned, he's a good shooter. He definitely has to shoot better. And, it's his last year playing college basketball. So with his track history of having to transfer, then having to sit out a year, then having to go through an injury, I know Overton's ready to show what he's made of and that, show us his truest form.
Yeah, I think another X factor could be next to Miles Overton, outside of Karinas, who we talked about earlier, is Tim Perry, the big man from Cherry Hill. He's a freshman and he's only 210, which is a little concerning. He's 6'10", 210, but he's been pegged as a hard worker, and he's his high school coach told City Basketball Love at Phelps. He said, "Timmy's one of those who wants to be great." I assume this is a typo. He's very disciplined and self-motivated. Katie wakes up at 6 a.m. to lift. He's working out. He's practicing like a sponge, trying to learn more and more about the game of basketball. He wants to be good, and I think that it might be interesting, to see just if he's putting in that work, just see where he's at and how much he can actually contribute. Any other freshmen that you think could contribute this year, Will?
Well, before we move on to another freshman, I just wanted to emphasize the point that, Tim Perry did play at a good high school at Cherry Hill East before attending the Phelps School for his prep year, where he had 12 points, 10 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks. But then his dad played at Temple, and he went to the NBA and played with the Phoenix Suns and 76ers. So Perry's someone who he has the background and sent his blood to play. He has the size. He's 6'10", 218 pounds, and he's only going to get bigger and fill out as his years go on at Drexel. So I think, we could expect a lot from Perry next season, and hopefully this year he can give them something. I know he didn't play as much against Villanova as he probably would have liked, but he's definitely someone to watch out for this year.
Yeah, I mean, he still got No. You're right. He didn't play as much as he probably would have liked. It'd be interesting to see how they match him and Karinas, because the backup big man, playing next to Tyshawn Miles is going to have to be off the bench is going to be important, because you just can't rely on two big men the entire year.
And then you mentioned what other freshman I'm looking forward to, and the guy I'm really looking forward to, who can play the 3, can probably play the 2, and probably can play the 4 as well, is Jarvis Doles. Doles, he's a Maryland native. He didn't play with Kirkley in high school, played against him. He took a prep year because he didn't really have too many D1 offers coming out of high school, so he decided to take the prep year to get better and to advance his game. And he made a visit last November to Drexel, visited with Coach Spiker, got a chance to hang out with Kirk Lee. He actually was his tour guide, if you want to say, and they hit it off. They instantly had the Maryland connection, and Jarvis Doles went as far as to say that him and Kirk Lee could be a dynamic duo. So I'm really excited about Jarvis Doles. He played well yesterday against Villanova. He only played 12 minutes, but he had 5 points. He was pretty efficient from the floor. He went 2 for 4, and I think he's an interesting player because, just having that connection with, I would say Drexel's best player is important because, if you're friendly and, good friends with the guy who's always has the ball, then you're pretty likely to get a lot of shooting opportunities and to, when you're on the fast break, to get the assist. He's 6'9", 215, so he has the size to play the 4, to play the 3. So I think he's someone he could be one of Drexel's most versatile players, and I look forward to seeing what he can do this year.
Yeah, 6'9", 215, big body. He could also be someone that factors into the front court help with Tim Perry, Karinas, Tyshawn Miles off the bench to spill Austin Williams. It'll be interesting to see how those guys compete, because I think all of those guys have potential to be special and to do different and important things. I wonder if it'll be a kind of game-by-game basis type thing with those big men.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to seeing what Doles can do this year. I think it was a good thing for him last year where he took that prep year, and I look forward to seeing him, seeing what Spiker decides to do with his role this year.
Yeah, now shifting gears a little bit to talk about the schedule that Drexel has planned for 2017-18 season. They start out early playing against Bowling Green and D3 Arcadia, and then they go to Paradise Jam 4 days after playing Arcadia to play against Houston in their first game, which would be a big-time matchup for them and could be an interesting game. I don't know the chances that Drexel comes away with that game, but it'll be a chance to play against some really good competition to start out the year. And then they go play against the Liberty and Mercer team, and then possibly if they won both those games, they could possibly play Colorado or Wake Forest. So Zach Spiker's got them in a good tournament to start out the season. I like that, and I think it's going to be a great learning experience for the young team. Yeah,
he did it. He made sure in his second year with the Dragons to have an early season tournament where he can see where his team is. I think that, these early season tournaments for, especially in Drexel's case, having a team that, isn't as connected since a lot of them haven't played that long together. Their chemistry isn't there yet. I think these early season tournaments could be a great bonding experience. You're traveling to Lynchburg, Virginia, and I think that, it's going to be a great way to see where they are, see how everyone fits in, see, what players are going to step up when you go against a team that's better. And one thing that, we know from watching Drexel last year is that there are some games when, we all would, watch the games and they would fall behind, and it was Rodney Williams who was always, stepping up. Even if they were down by 10 or 15 points, he was still playing hard. So we're going to, find out which players on this year's Drexel team has to have the fight when, their backs are against the wall.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I think it's going to be interesting to see just how much they're able to compete at the level of CAA this year. They went 3-15 last year, which was obviously a disappointment. And I think it'd be interesting to see how they get going. They play UNCW second game of CAA, and we know UNCW is good and have made tournament appearances in the last couple of years. And so they'll get a test right off the bat in that second game. I think it'll be interesting to see how they respond.
And then I always, to mention other conference games that I'm looking forward to, it'll probably be the times when they play Townsend.
Yeah.
Kirkley's dad played at Townsend. He's one of the all-time leading scorers there. And last year when they played, I believe they lost. Great game. And Kirkley played out of his mind. So yes. Whenever they play Townsend and Kirkley is on the floor, and we know the history there, it's going to be a special game.
Yeah. It is going to be a special game. It'll be interesting to see how they line up. Now, what's your prediction for this year? How do you see the team doing?
Well, last year they didn't have the best of years. I think they, struggled to close out games. They had Rodney Williams, they had Kirkley, they had Kari Janssen, so they had, players who could, help them win. But I don't know, they struggled last year to, win games or close out games. They had a couple of games where, they were blown out so bad they were, losing games by 30 points. I don't think that'll happen this year. I think that they will be in most games. Of course, when they play against a team like the University of Houston or they play against a Temple, I think that they could struggle, but I wouldn't imagine them being blown out. So for me, I think they win more games than they did last year. To give a number, I would say 12 to 13 wins.
Yeah, I think that sounds about accurate. I think it'll be interesting. I think that this team is more set up for next year than this year. I think it's going to be a building process. Next year they'll have Isabel and Harper back for their second year and their final year. Kirkley will be a junior by then. I think this year is going to be another rebuilding year and another step towards next year. And I think they will improve. I think this is a team that we saw play hard last year on a daily basis. They fought, they ran, and they competed. And you see that in Kirkley. That man doesn't ever want to stop playing. He shows a lot of emotion in games, showing that he cares. And I think it'll be interesting to see because they fought super hard last year, but it just sometimes they just didn't have enough. And it'll be interesting to see who can step up and give them that extra maybe spark off the bench that they necessarily didn't always have last year. Didn't have a consistent score off the bench, and that's going to be key.
Yeah, and we both have to remember that it is only Spiker's second year in the program, and he's still learning. As he did a really good job with Army there. So, it's his second year, and he's just starting to get the recruits that he's actually brought in and the transfers who decided to play for him. So I would look for this year to be better than last year, and then, like you said, for his third season with the program to be even better.
Yeah. That's really all I have. Do you have anything else to add, Will?
No, I would just say that, I think at times Drexel was hard to watch because, either they were being blown out or they would, lose games by, a close margin. So I would say this year to be
definitely close
some really close games. I mean, they played the game last year that me and you both got, excited about was the Townsend game when
the St. Joe's game where they lost on that buzzer beater.
Yeah, and then the Townsend game they lost and it's a Shavar Newkirk who hit a game-winning shot. And then with the Talented game, they went to double overtime and lost 104 to 103. So that was just a heartbreaker.
Yeah.
So I would say hopefully this year they could try to win those games when, they're a play or two away from, winning the game.
Yeah, I think that's going to be, will come with experience, and I think we'll see that improvement this year.
I agree.
Well, thank you for listening. We'll be producing these podcasts for each of the 6 cities, 6 teams, just documenting our season preview. We'll be producing a season preview as a podcast medium, and then also as a written medium, to give you two types of different ways to digest the information that we're providing you. So thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to you listening next time. I'm Benjamin Simon.
And I'm William Derry.
Thank you very much.